All right, we'd like to welcome you to the Deacon Daryl Show, Health and Wellness, Child Health and Wellness Show, recorded here live at the church at Victorville, WKYCN Radio.com. And we'd like to welcome you this evening. We have a pretty interesting topic tonight, something that myself and a lot of my colleagues discuss on a weekly, if not daily basis, on what is church. Church has taken many faces over the last century or so, as far as what people consider church. Is it a building? Is it a place of refuge? What really is church in the minds and souls of the people across the country and across the world? Like I said, we're recording live here at the church at Victorville, here Victorville, California, representing the high desert. I'd like to welcome my two esteemed guests here that we have tonight. We have Apostle YAH from the church at Victorville and the Prophet Shabar, also from the church at Victorville, that are going to be also chiming in on this topic. How you brothers doing this evening?
We're well. Glad to see you, brother.
Man, it's blessed situation to have you guys
Yes,
here.
sir.
Definitely blessed to have you guys here. Well, let's start off basically, and like I said, this is a youth health and wellness show. So it's not just about sports. It's not just about football and basketball. We discuss and we're concerned with the whole child as far as their health and wellness. That's mind, body, and soul. Not just what they can do on the field or in the gym, but how they're living. What's their situation at home. How are they feeling when they're at school. And that has a lot to do with their spiritual well-being. More so than their physical well-being. But they all, tie hand in hand. So I'll start with you, Brother YAH. How you doing this evening, sir?
I'm well. How about you?
Man, it's like I said, I'm blessed
Me
to
too,
be here.
man. I'm just delighted.
Talk to our audience a little bit about, your opinion on, what exactly church is in this time and age, this day and age. It takes on a lot of a lot of different faces to people around the world. What's your opinion on what church is right now?
Well, the first thing I would have to do is, let me begin by giving honor to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, without which we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't exist. And so he deserves our props at all times. And so big ups to our Heavenly Father. We love you, Father. I guess the main point that I would start with in terms of trying to break down what church is that it has been reduced to a building. When you hear church, the first thing that comes to your mind is a physical edifice.
Right.
That, in my judgment, is damaging to our communities. When I was a child, since this is a child program, some things remain constant in childhood. And despite the technology and all the amazing advancements, certainly human nature is consistent. And so to draw on my own childhood would be a good way.
Right, most definitely.
To speak to your audience in terms of really discerning how youth perceive church.
Right.
And it really, a church shouldn't be a building in the sense that it is brick and mortar. Church is people. And strangely enough, Christ, who set up the church, said that we are a holy temple.
Right.
And so the damaging aspect of capitalism taking over the concept of church is that we lose sight of the fact that we are a living body.
Right.
And so it disempowers us spiritually in the name of empowering us get more money.
Right, exactly.
That's a fundamental mistake.
Right.
The second thing I want to say about that is that we would do well, I think, to reassess, and this is just a general statement, not directed to any individual, our approach to our youth.
Right.
I notice so oftentimes, even in raising my own children or working at Think Together with children from the Victorville community, that people speak down to them and they are disgruntled by that and discouraged by that, but they don't say anything about it.
Exactly.
And it even brought to mind, and I don't want to filibuster here, but just real quickly,
it's your time. It's your time, brother.
Good. I appreciate it. It brought to mind when I was a child, I remember people like my mother's girlfriends and stuff, you know, "Ooh, give me a beat.
Right.
And I was like, why are they talking to me in this way?
Right, exactly.
I have distinct memories of that.
Right.
And so I've taken a great pains to make sure that I don't relate to our children in that way. I didn't raise my kids that way.
Right.
And that type of mentality leads to what we see in churches, ironically, which
Right.
is don't question me.
Right. Exactly.
Just take what I'm saying at face value.
Right.
I didn't do that with my kids. I'm the daddy. You know, I was like, well, Daddy, how come you did that?
Right.
Well, let me see. It's to the extent that they're capable of grasping that.
Right, exactly.
And I think, and my children, and I say this in all humility, have gotten rave reviews from teachers and coaches and that. So in my judgment, that affirms the approach I was taking to religion and to youth.
Right. People don't understand. Children are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
They really are.
They're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And it seems like their brains, especially with technology and things, that their brains move a little bit faster than most people would think their kids' brains move.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I would also say, and just to wrap my opening statement up, so to say, is that when children came to Christ, who is the author and finisher of our faith, so he's the father of church,
Right.
as we know it, or as we should know it, children approached him. They were attracted to his love and to his persona, his spirit.
Right.
And his disciples rebuked them. You know, well, he's busy. You get away back. And he saw that and said, no. Don't rebuke them. Forbid them not. Let them come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
And then he went on to say, unless you become as one of these, you shall in no wise inherit the kingdom of YAH. Now, we have to draw a distinction between childlike and childish.
Right.
The Apostle Paul said, when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Right.
But if we put away being childlike, meaning idealistic, optimistic, believing things, hoping things, trusting, then we are making a severe mistake in the name of being an adult.
Right.
And so we would do well to appreciate and even emulate, in many instances, that aspect of our children
Right.
and of our youth in general.
Right.
So that's what I would say to that. I think that the youth are poised now to embrace a new definition of church that would be of benefit, much more benefit to the community. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
Right, most definitely.
Yeah, so-
I'm in full agreement with that.
Yeah.
You know, in my circle, as far as being a coach, and we've discussed this before.
Right.
You know, a lot of my parents, a lot of the kids that I coach and that I've coached in the past that stay in contact with me.
Right.
There's an attraction to me that most of them think, okay, well, he's a really good coach. We had a winning season. You know, he just seemed like a nice guy. But I agree with that, but I also want to add that I think it's the God in me that shines, and kids understand spirituality as far as you explain it to them.
Yes.
Like I said, a lot of the kids and parents don't know. Wow, you know, Coach E, he's just this really nice guy, and he does this and he does that. They don't. Hey, it's the God in me that causes those situations to happen. It's the God in me that pays for shoes for kids that don't have shoes. It's the God in me that'll sponsor a
Give it
kid
up.
It's not me. It's not my personal opinion or my personal feeling.
Indeed.
It's the God in me. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Yes, sir.
That kids will understand it if it's explained to them.
Indeed.
They don't understand. Like I said, some of the parents don't understand. They just say, "Wow, coach, he's just really nice." No, it's the God in me that shines. It's the God in me that wakes me up every morning, and that keeps my feet planted on this earth to do these good deeds. It's nothing personal. It's about the God in me. So I agree with that. Kids, they can understand spirituality.
Yes,
and understand God if you explain it to them.
And quickly, let me just interject very briefly that that underscores what is, in my judgment, a pressing need to move beyond the idea that we can raise our children successfully without acknowledging a higher power in our schools and in our other institutions.
Prayer out of school was one of the most destructive things that's ever happened in world society.
There's no question about it. You can trace back the collapse in the behavior, the exponential rise in mischief and madness to the removal of prayer And I would also add Children Love Music, the removal of music where they understand and can learn music and not just be a consumer of music.
Right.
And so those two aspects must be restored. And that is part of what we do as, we work and think together, of course, and as we are moving toward the fruition and the manifestation of the Mind Center.
Right, most definitely.
We will do that despite whatever tension there is between religion and state in America. We can't stand idly by and see our youth continue to devolve based upon this lack. We can't do that. If I raise zero funds, I will tell the truth. Our youth need to know that they are made in the image and likeness of Almighty Elohim, the Most High. They have a creator and they have a purpose. And without that, to expect them not to run wild, we're fantasizing. That's not going to happen.
It makes no sense. Yeah, let's take God out of their lives and expect them to be successful.
That's absurd. Just straight out.
That's so true. That's so true. Prophet Shabar, how you doing over there, sir?
Good. I'm doing good.
Man, blessed to have you here this evening, man.
Yeah.
Give us your opinion. What does, when you hear the word church, as far as society is concerned nowadays, what does it bring to mind for you?
Yeah, I want to first kind of share what my experience was as a child. Since we've been dealing with children.
Yeah, most definitely.
My dad was a Baptist deacon.
Okay.
And so he went to a building called St. James Baptist Church.
Okay.
My mom went to a different church, Westminster Presbyterian Church.
Oh, wow.
So growing up, Sunday mornings was the most divided time.
Right,
for
time
our
of
family.
separation. Right, exactly.
Dad going one place, mom going another place. My sister and I ping ponging back and forth. Sometimes I'll go with my dad. Sometimes she'll go with my mom. Sometimes we both will go with my mom. That was crazy.
Right, exactly.
And they're going to these buildings. Right. And so that was my growing up experience of church. Right. And then, as I got older, I started going to these buildings and things like that. It wasn't until I met and connected with YAH that I got a deeper understanding and enlightenment into what church really was, because I met him in the music business. But he was already functioning in the music business, doing things what a lot of preachers nowadays call those home Bible studies. Right. They look down, oh, that's just a home Bible. Well, but that's what church was. He was dealing with people, dealing with word, praying, and people getting healed, and all kind of things happening. Right. And then even in Palmwood, in a little apartment there, things were happening the same way. And people call it home Bible study, but
the Spirit of God is everywhere. God should be everywhere. He's not in one specific building, and if you don't go to that building, you can't receive receive your blessings if you don't go to that particular building. Right, exactly.
And you start looking in the scriptures, you see a lot of that was in people's homes.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So this whole situation where there's one guy standing at a podium and people can't ask him questions and things like that. That's not even.
It's my church.
Yeah.
Right. How do you claim a church? How do you claim God is your own and you're the only person who can deliver him to people? Right.
That is all the way
out.
So,
That's a great point. That's a great point. A lot of churches, especially like how we're describing these buildings, they're almost like gangs. Right. A lot of I've visited numerous churches in my years on this earth. I've visited churches all over the country, and I've received good words and good blessings from a number of them. But I've also visited a number of churches that I felt like that was a gang leader. I felt threatened almost to while being there. If he says if you miss next Sunday, it's almost like you're damned if you miss a Sunday at his particular church. Even if you're saying, okay, I'm going to visit another church.
Right.
Oh, well, really? Well, why are you doing that? It's like, wow, is this a gang? Is this a clique that I have to stick with, or is God everywhere in every situation in every walk of life?
I've heard a guy say, you're a spiritual vagabond if you do that.
Right. You're a bum. You're God's bum. God's gonna he's gonna look down upon you if you seek to hear His word in different locations. But if His word is everywhere, His word is it's in your house, it's in your closet, it's when you're in the restroom, wherever you're at on this earth.
That's right.
Especially if He's within you, He's wherever you are located. So I think we've kind of gotten confused with that. And a lot of people have gotten trapped into that mentality as far as, loyalty to a particular situation or a particular building or a particular minister. It's about, receiving it where you can receiving it and how it edifies your life.
Now, I would add to that, if I might. You mentioned belonging to a certain ministry. I would add to that, and I'm certainly, I would, again, I'm not disagreeing with what you just said.
Right.
But being added to a church, people are born into families.
Right.
And to that extent, for example, if I were to find my way in the spirit in a particular setting, a particular congregation, then I would owe a certain allegiance to that congregation on that basis.
Right.
But it wouldn't be, I can't fellowship anywhere else.
Right. It's not the end all. Right. The end all.
That is going too far.
Right.
And so we certainly should recognize that if you can't put the spirit in a box, the spirit is like the wind. You don't know where it's going or where it's coming. And so it's the spirit. And so the notion of trying to contain God is absurd to me. It just shows the arrogance of man.
Right.
And children tend to be humble. And just let me say to your audience, don't let anyone, you youth that are listening, confuse you about your spirituality. You are made in the image of Almighty God that made everything. You're not an animal. You have a spirit, and you have a destiny, and you have a value. You don't have to reach 18 or 21 to be. You're somebody right now.
Right.
Now, obey your parents in the Lord. Don't be rebels. But understand that you're not second-class citizens because you're children.
Exactly.
You are worthy, and we love you, and we respect you, and we're working to make lives better for you, your lives better for you, in terms of your whole family and not just you.
Right.
We love you, and we love your families
Definitely.
too.
That brings me, it just took my brain back to a story. My oldest daughter, Deanna, love you, Deanna, when she was 4 years old. She lived in Chicago with her mom, and I was living in Mississippi at the time. And I remember her coming to visit me in Mississippi. And on one particular night, just out of the blue, she, I had actually already put her to bed for the evening, and I was, winding down to go to bed. And she came into my bedroom. I thought something was wrong. Like, boogeyman, did the boogeyman scare you? I know I got, it's a big house, new house to you. And she was like, no, Dad, I just want to pray for you. So that let me know instantly that, kids, and I don't know how churchy she was. I don't know how often her mom had her in church, in Chicago. But she came, and I was actually, like I said, I was in the bed. I was laying in the bed, and I was like, sure. I thought we were going to get down on our knees next to the bed. And she stood on the bed and stood over me and prayed for me, prayed for the entire family. She almost broke into a sermon that lasted about 30 minutes.
She was 4 years old?
4 years old.
Yeah, that's just the spirit.
And it was exactly. That's my whole point. And she went on for 30 minutes. I just laid there in tears.
I can imagine.
Tears of joy that that God had already introduced himself to her at this early age. Yes. And if you would have heard the prayers that she said, it had to have been of God, because it was on specific things in my life that my daughter had no earthly adult situations that I was going through, that my 4-year-old daughter just prayed that those situations would either get better or the negative ones would go away, to where I couldn't stop her. I was almost frozen, just laying there frozen, to where, like, the point is being made that children can understand what's explained to them.
Yes.
They can understand spirituality, just like they can understand the music they hear. They can understand the television shows they watch. They can understand the lessons they're taught in school. Kids' brains, that's why I really enjoy working with kids more so than adults, because most adults are so prideful that they think that their time of learning has stopped.
Right.
But your time of learning never stops.
Indeed.
But kids, their brains are like just blank. I was about to say tape recorders, but I don't want to date myself. They're like blank hard drives. They're like blank hard drives.
Okay.
With an infinite amount of gigabytes and megabytes, to where they can receive the positive or the negative that you instill in them. So that's why I really enjoy working with kids. And like I said, the kids that I work with, the families that I work with, the parents that I work with, trust me, it's of God. You know, no situation that I live in nowadays is personal or opinionated. You know, if I deal with you on any level, trust me, it's a spiritual level that we're connecting on, and you know, just know that God is love. Just know that.
My experience with working with the children was that their parents would inevitably respond to me based upon how their children did.
Right.
So I saw the parents willing to consider my take on things based upon those results.
Right.
And so in my judgment, we should see working with youth in that light.
Right.
I mean, I think we should make opportunity or seek opportunity to extend what we do beyond that. I mean, certainly these children are much easier, much more pliable.
Right, definitely.
And teachable.
Like I said, most adults are so prideful that they think, hey, you know, I've got these 3 or 4 degrees from college.
Right.
I'm the smartest person in the world.
Right.
There's nothing else that I can be taught.
And nevertheless,
Right.
if they have a display of power greater than them, they can break out of that mold. And
Right,
I believe that
definitely.
we should really, in the name of being comprehensive and being community minded, despite those difficulties, rise to that challenge and believe for them in places
definitely.
where they don't, that they can in fact move beyond that, and they're not necessarily. It's never too late. They're not set in stone. I've heard a lot of people say, well, you know, we might as well write off that generation because they're, you know, at that age,
Right.
they don't. And I don't, from my perspective, that is a worldly analysis
Right.
of that.
You know, I hear
With
that
God,
all-
all things are possible.
You know, I hear that all the time, especially with teenagers that I work with.
Right.
Oh, he's a bad kid. You know, he's been bad ever since he was a little kid. So yeah,
So
he's just destined for nothing but a negative life. Whereas, you know, the challenge is to instill something in that person, because you never stop learning.
That's
you,
right.
You never stop learning.
That's right.
You never stop wanting better for yourself.
Sure.
Because you know, there's brothers in jail, in prison right now, that want better for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, you know, okay, I'm in prison, I'm about to be in here 10, 20 years,
Right.
you know, that's it. I don't want anything else for myself. So as long as there's people in the community that still instill those ideas that, hey, you should always want better for yourself. You know,
Right.
I'm in my mid 40s now. I still want better for myself daily,
Sure.
you know, for my spiritual self, you know what I mean? My spirit, man. I want to learn more. I want to, you know,
Absolutely.
I want to grow and continue to grow. That way I can, you know, bless other people with, you know, the knowledge that I gained over the
Absolutely.
years. You know what I mean?
Well said.
Go ahead and chime in, Prophet
you know,
Shabar.
one thing the early church did, when you look at the book of Acts, 2nd chapter and 4th chapter, is they pooled their resources together.
Right.
You know, and so you have now in this capitalistic society, you have every man just trying to do
Right.
their own little thing.
Right.
And if we get back to that and pool our resources together, that will strengthen our families.
Right, definitely.
You know,
The church as a
children,
body.
yeah.
Right. The church as a
But-
body, not as an individual situation. Right.
You know, a lot of people say, you know, you've heard this saying, it takes a village.
Right,
You know,
definitely,
and
definitely.
so some people might not have financial resources, but they have other resources.
Right, definitely. Skills that they can
Well,
bring to the
skills,
table.
yeah.
Right, definitely.
And so, you know, that's something that needs to be really looked at.
Right.
You know, and because what we see now, certain streets, even you drive down Western, still in LA now, you see a church almost
Every
in
corner, like McDonald's, right? It's
You
like
know,
a
a
franchise.
church building on every
It's like a
corner, not a
franchise
church,
business
but yeah.
now, right?
Right, you
exactly.
know.
Where they need to come together. You hear certain churches say, yeah, we have a sister church, we have a brother church. Every church should be your sister church and be your brother church, not just one particular church because, you know, you just happen to know the pastor over there, you went to seminary with him, and you know that's your buddy, so that's our brother or sister church. Every church in every community, if you're really about church, should be your sister or brother church. I definitely agree.
Just think of the despair some people are probably having right now. If in their mind, they'll say, okay, the pastor says you go to church and your problems will be over, you know, whatever you're going through,
Right.
your depression, whatever, it'll be fine once you go to church. They go there and they don't get it.
Right.
It's like, oh, sheesh.
Right,
okay,
right.
I did this. So
Right. Life must be
you know,
over for me. Right. They go into a point of despair.
You know, they
right.
have to, you know, see the real deal. No, that's not the real deal. Those
Right.
buildings, that's not what church is.
Right.
You know, and I see things happening and the Most High has been working with YAH for years. I've seen him laboring,
definitely,
and just sacrificing.
The fruits of his labors are manifesting right before our eyes daily.
It's about to, it's about to happen
daily. Definitely.
Where people will see an alternative to what they've been seeing.
Right. And I want to give a shout out to those pastors like Apostle YAH and my buddy Pastor Rob down there in Jackson, Mississippi. I was a member of a church in Mississippi. Like I said, one of my buddies, Pastor Rob, was the head of that church. Very small congregation, 5 or 6 people. But I felt more at home in that church than I felt in these churches that I visited with 10, 20,000 people.
There it is.
And we kind of were on the same accord as far as our mission. He was a foot walker. He was like, he wanted to walk the streets like Jesus. He wanted to just get out. A lot of, like I said, it was a small congregation, but even that small congregation were kind of in disagreement with him sometime, because we would have discussions where we said, man, let's not meet on Sunday at a certain time. Right. Let's meet up at another time and just walk down these particular streets and just let's see how we can bless people. Let's see what the community needs. Let's see what our neighbors, the neighborhood around the church. Let's see what these people need. Do the kids need clothes? Do the parents need food? Let's see what the real need in the community, and not just try to draw them into this building so that they can pay tithes to help us pay the rent. Exactly. You know what I mean? Exactly. That was never a concern of his. So like I said, shout out to Pastor Rob down there in Jackson, Mississippi. I'll make sure I send you a copy of this recording. But church is taking on a whole new face. And like you were saying, in certain cities, there's a church on every corner. It's become a franchise and an individualistic type setup, to where they don't want you to branch out and fellowship with anybody else, or take your money to another building to help them pay their rent. It's blasphemous to some people.
Let me say that the natural tendency on the part of youth, and I speak from personal experiences, really is to reject the idea of a higher power in general once you recognize the hypocrisy of church as it exists. That's a real threat and a real challenge. And I would just say that we can't make that mistake. Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right,
so that so much of churchianity, which is what I refer to as Christianity, meaning the churches as they exist, are wrong about a lot of things, but they're also right about some things. Right. And so we have to avoid the tendency to overreact and dismiss the whole thing. Right. When I was a child, I saw the hypocrisy in church. And I overreacted and assumed that was a reflection of God, and so or of Christ. Right. So I walked away. Right. I remember in my teens, for example, somebody asking me, "Do you believe? Are you a Christian?" And my response was, "I believe in the Creator, but I don't believe in some cat in the sky with a robe." Right. So I had been disgruntled to the point where I left Christ and didn't recognize. And so the real revelation in the word to our youth is that you can leave the church and not leave Christ. That is possible. Right, definitely. And so don't I don't want to use that word. Don't assume that God is reflected in these churches. I mean, they did that against him. That's not him. Right. That excess and that madness does not reflect your Creator. Right. And so don't reject morality and, for lack of a better term, church, based upon the mistakes and the excesses of things as they exist.
Right, most definitely. Well, to any of our listeners out there, if you'd like to chime in, you can most definitely call us right now and be live on the radio and chime in with your opinion. Area code 442-284-4282. That's area code 442-284-4282. You can call in with your opinion on tonight's topic, which is, what is church? If you have something to add to what we've discussed, or if you have, a difference of opinion, all that is welcome. We most definitely, like I said, we're always trying to build and continue to educate ourselves. So if you have an opinion that might, enlighten us or enlighten our audience in some sort of way, feel free to call in.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it one more time. 442-284-4282. Go ahead, bro.
Sure. And no, I lost my thought.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good. You good? It's good. It's good.
I meant to put the number.
Oh, that's what it was. I got it.
Go ahead.
And unlike kind of mainstream pastors and spiritual leaders, for lack of a better way to put that, we take questions.
Right, definitely.
I'm not God. I'm not the Most High. And so if you got a question, I feel duty bound to answer it. So if you have questions that you want to ask, feel free. You don't have to make a statement if you want. If you got a question, we'll do our best to.
Right, most definitely.
To answer that.
And if you want to call with a question after the show is ended, you can still call that number. You can leave a message, and we'll definitely get back to you.
Yes,
definitely get back to you.
Beautiful.
All right, Prophet Shabar, what would you like to add, sir?
Yeah, just piggybacking on the whole thing of questions.
Right.
Because that's not something you see, on Sundays at 11 o'clock or whatever. Guy gets up there talking. People can't. If I went up there and tried to ask questions, they'd probably get the ushers to
make calls with
security.
Right, you get escorted out. Exactly. Talk to me after church.
Yeah.
Why do I need to talk to you after church? You know what I mean? We're fellowshipping right now, right? Supposedly, right.
And there was more than one person involved in the dialogue. Somebody might have a word of exhortation. Somebody might have a prophecy.
Right.
Somebody might, and so
testimony.
It wasn't just this one guy monopolizing the whole thing.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what the scripture says. That's what's ironic about it. This is not just a snappy idea that Shabar and I have. The book says, "Let the others speak, so that everybody can be edified."
Right.
And so to do that is to assume that only the pastor has anything of benefit to add to that congregation. That is a mistake. That is just, how are we going to hear the whole mind of God and you sitting there and you can't say anything because I'm apostle, I'm shaliach.
Only his opinion matters.
That's his madness.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it turns into personality worship.
Right.
That's
so when
where
Pastor so-and-so Smith is not there, everybody's
down and we can't get fed this week. But
the only reason we should be down is if the Most High is not there, not some man.
He's not going anywhere.
Say that.
Well, I kind of want to turn to a conversation that we've been having this week about my fellow coaches here in the high desert.
Yeah.
And just a shout out to all the coaches that I know, that I deal with, all the coaches that I don't know and don't deal with here in the desert, as far as being leaders in the community. And what I realized, like I said, in my circle, that a lot of these sports organizations, they're basically becoming the churches as far as what community is considered.
Indeed.
They're mentoring families and kids. 'Cause I know when I coach, I don't just mentor the kids. I wind up mentoring families. I wind up getting dads jobs and things of that nature.
Yes,
Mom's
sir.
crying on my shoulder sometime, about some things that might be happening at work or at home. So shout out to all the coaches. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stay strong. Keep God in your lives, and your direction and your path will stay straight and correct. Just and come together. Come together. Come together as community, because you guys are our current community leaders up here. The pastors of these churches, they do their their version of community outreach. But these coaches, like I was with the High Desert Ducks yesterday.
Yeah.
Their organization probably has 500 families involved in football, just youth football. That's just one sport,
That's
one
just
organization.
Indeed.
So I'm familiar with 10 to 15 different organizations that that are in my circle.
Right.
So now you're talking thousands of families here in the high desert. So like I said, shout out to all the coaches and the presidents of these organizations that are assisting families, that are like Coach Matt said at the last show, that are giving kids rides home when they need a ride home, taking care of the community and these families. And in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, for what it's worth, is a lot of these coaches are like the new pastors in our community. A lot of the pastors have separated themselves from the rest of the community, but a lot of these coaches that, have their feet to the ground daily and earn these kids home. I visit kids' homes. I drop kids off. I go talk to mom and grandma and the uncle that lives in the back house, and and pray with them if they need prayer, or fellowship with them. Take them to get something to eat if they need something to eat. That's what church is to me. The community coming together and talking and fellowshipping and testifying. A lot of people don't realize your testimony can change somebody's life. Right. But if you're not allowed to stand up in a particular brick and mortar building and testify, nobody will benefit. Yeah. A lot of the positive direction that my life has taken has come from someone else's testimony, not just conversation, but their actual testimony of what they've gone through in their lives and how, whether it was good or bad, how God may have delivered them from certain situations. And I take that and I run with it.
That's part of the mandate of ministry, to exhort and to comfort. Yeah. We don't do that. Right. We really, even in church circles, you'll find that if you give a man a compliment, he will, all praise to the Most High. Right. All praises to God. Right. They are taught not to receive that. Right. All praises go to God. And so that misunderstanding causes us to withhold those words of encouragement and comfort that each of us really need to fight this fight. Right. That's a major mistake, and we need to stop that. You are a great man, Deacon Daryl. You're doing mighty things. Appreciate that. And me saying that, I should not withhold that in the name of I'm going to puff you up, or God is going to be jealous because I praised you. That's a mistake.
You're speaking something into my life, and I appreciate
exactly. That. And then I would say that, as you know, I'm making an initiative here and you have certainly agreed to do that, to gather these pastors together. I mean, these coaches together. Yeah. And that's a Freudian slip.
Hey, but you said it. You said it right.
You using Deacon Daryl is no coincidence. Right. These deacons are men from the community. This is what the intent of Christ was, that do exactly what you guys are doing. Right. So it's no coincidence that you are Deacon Daryl. Right, mean, you are that in title, but in action. Right. And I bear witness to that. Right, definitely. And these marvelous men you have brought into this process, Donald Porter, Coach Jeff, Roy Isaiah, great men, mighty men, all of them with a heart for these youth. Yeah. We need to come together in this building and sit down and organize and look for ways to consolidate what we're doing for a broader impact across this community. Further define coaching as you have described. And so youth, take heart. Those of you who are listening, your coaches are coming together and in ways that will benefit the fathers and mothers that are really the backbone of our community. We're here to serve, and we're about to take this service to the next level. We love you, and we will lay down our lives for you. Know that you're valuable. Yes. Hallelujah. So we're coming together. We're going to build and organize these coaches to even take their service, which is commendable and amazing even to me at this point, to that next level.
Right. Definitely appreciate that.
Amen.
Brother Shabar, would you like to? You got any last?
This is like YAH said. This is, you're doing a wonderful work. You're doing a mighty work.
Appreciate that.
And I'm just looking forward to what the Father's doing.
Right, Definitely. He's busy. He's definitely busy right now. He's definitely busy right now. Definitely busy.
Yeah.
And let me just say, if I might, to all of the Hebrew Israelite aware who may be who are listening to this, understand that we are not compromising our faith. We are operating in love as we are commanded to do. Yes. And all of our people, whatever their level of understanding and their degree of revelation, are worthy of our service. Yes. And the book speaks of the dry bones coming together and becoming an exceeding army. All of us count. Everybody is somebody in this body. And so Hebrew, don't be so cultured out and with your kufis and fringes. And I love it. I have a beard. I love our culture. And dismiss love and our people because they aren't they don't know what you know or what you think you know. Open up your hearts and love our people. Yes. Hallelujah. That's what I would say to y'all. Without compromise. Don't compromise now. But within the context of being faithful to this vision, we can love our people. Right. Open up your hearts, my brothers. Shalom Aleichem.
Hey. Yeah. Shalom.
How else can we end this? How else can we end this? Those are some prophetic words, man. We appreciate hearing that. Appreciate having you brothers in the studio this evening. It's been It's been an eye opener, hopefully for our listening audience.
Indeed,
it's definitely been an eye opener for myself. And like I said, you guys can call in 442-284-4282 even after we go off the air, and give your opinion, give your thoughts. If you have any questions, you can refer the questions to either one of us here in the studio this evening.
Let me just say this real quick. Shout out to Ben Asiel and to Kohen, the scribe, Amaniel Ben Eliezer. Love you guys.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. God bless.